Update. Am I the a-hole for not helping my sister and husband pay for their IVF treatment using my inheritance, despite having no immediate use for it? Original story. So, I am 25 female and my sister Ella is 31 female. My husband is Tom and her husband is John. Ella is bisexual, and our parents were religious AF. So when she brought home a girlfriend in high school, they kicked her out, and she never got an inheritance when our mom died. The both of us had cut contact with our parents, but I still decided to accept the money because I figured it's the one good thing to come out of our abusive life. So why not? The legal side of things were finalized a week ago. Ella and John came to see me while Tom was at work and told me they wanted to talk about something important. They said that they had exhausted all of their fertility money and didn't have enough to try IVF again. I could see where this was going, so I just said, "I'm sorry, Ella. I understand." I was thinking about this as well, and Tom thinks this is the right thing to do too. You should have half of the money. You deserve it. John tells me that's not what they wanted to talk about, but that they wanted all of the money. I'm a bit taken aback. Apparently, half won't be enough. I tell them that I was going to use my part, or if she didn't want to have all of it, for my daughter's college fund, and another fund for her to use for whatever she wishes during her teen years. I remind Ella that we always promised each other our children will be financially well off because we never had that growing up. Where I live, college is extremely expensive. So despite my daughter being only 3, Tom and I wanted to start this for her. I tell Ella and John all of this, and Ella's just very upset at this point. John is more willing to have a conversation though. She comes back from the kitchen and says I'm rubbing the fact that I'm a mother in her face. I'm angry by this point because I thought she loved my daughter like her own. Ella said I was sabotaging her and that I owe her for looking after me when we were kids. John said since Ella faced more struggles, she deserved it all, despite knowing full well our parents hurt me regularly as well. I was just not prepared to fight. My daughter needed my attention, and I wanted Tom to be by my side because Ella was acting aggressive. I asked them to leave and called Tom. We discussed this again and agreed we should give them the money. Ella calls me and I pick up and she tells me she has to try again and that her relationship is rocky because they're frustrated that they can't have a kid. I told her I would not give her the entire amount and just hung up. I feel guilty about all of this now, but I don't know if I should. Maybe since I don't have an immediate use for the money, I should have given it to her? Am I an a-hole? Top comments before reading the update. You should have half of the money. You deserve it. John tells me that's not what they wanted to talk about, but that they wanted all of the money. What the heck? You offered an equal split and she went, "Nope, I want it all." It is trying to pull out every emotional manipulative tool in the book to get what she wants. Seems like she turned out more like her mother than she'd like to admit. You're not an a-hole, and you should just flat out tell her that if either her or John brings up wanting more than half ever again, they'll get nothing. IVF is crazy expensive too, and unfortunately it doesn't always work. OP, what would happen if you hypothetically give Ella the money and the IVF doesn't work? I still think you're not an a-hole, since she's entitled to half and you're entitled to yours as well. Legally, Ella's entitled to nothing, so this kind of foolishness is just something else. I missed the bit at the end where Ella is saying her and her husband's relationship is rocky and want to try again for that reason. OP did not give her the money. Children should never be used as a way to stabilize a rocky relationship. You have a point. Thank you for pointing that out. Not a hole. I think you were right and fair to offer to split the money with her, but in no way should she get all of it. This is the chance for you to ensure your child's future, and as her mother, it's only right for you to do so. Ella can look for alternate ways to become a mother that doesn't involve spending your part of the inheritance. Fertility problems are super unfortunate, but it doesn't give her the right to take your daughter's college money. I think some of her friends have suggested that in the past, but she has always wanted a biological child of her own, similar to a normal pregnancy. Thank you for your help. And now for the update. Hello. I apologize for the update being so late, almost a month. I got caught up with everything that was going on, but now that I have a moment, I thought I'd write this since a lot of you guys still want an update. I got a lot of helpful tips. I also understood that I was so not a hole. The relief I felt was huge, so thanks for helping me out. I didn't reach out to Ella or John like I initially planned, now that I knew I had nothing to apologize for. A few days after, though, John came over, alone, to my house and apologized for what Ella said. But I was dumb for thinking they would stop there because John asked me about the money again. They still felt like they deserved all the money. Luckily for me, I did not have to deal with all of this for the second time since Tom was home, and they talked. It ended with John threatening to sue and whatnot. Ella began posting the nastiest things on Facebook, and it was embarrassing to explain everything to my friends. I just felt like I had to cut off contact. They were being aggressive and just overall horrible to my family. I told Ella that I did not want to have contact with her anymore, and blocked them all. Ella showed up with John again though, this time asking for half of the money. Tom and I talked about this, and we decided not to give them anything. We offered it to them, even after the incident, and all they did was insult us. We're going to use it for our daughter's future. So, I know that's a sad update, but I got messages yesterday asking for one that I thought I'd still make a post. We talked to our lawyer and they can't really do anything legally, and they probably won't even try because they have no money. To clarify some things, some people mentioned how IVF is not that expensive, but Ella chose a very particular clinic. It's their second time doing this cycle, and so they decided to go for a more expensive option, though I don't know why, hence why they needed more than their half. At least this is what they told me. We had a poor childhood, but got a big inheritance because our parents were rich. They just didn't spend any money on us. A lot of you think setting up a teen fund for my daughter would spoil her, but it's not for anything she might want for fun. It's just an emergency fund that we wanted to set up so she could use it until she turns 18 in case of emergencies, or if she wants a car, or for traveling, and other things not related to college. I think by cutting them off you made the best and healthiest choice for your family. Insulting people isn't a way to convince them to hand money over to you. Glad you understand you absolutely are not the a-hole here. For their family too, probably. If they can't afford the treatment to have the child, isn't it a safe assumption they can't afford to raise the child? Sad to hear that, but it sometimes happens. It's probably for the best that they don't use a baby to fix the marriage. If a relationship is rocky, a baby is not a band-aid. Healthy and solid relationships can weather this kind of storm. Thinking a baby can fix it usually just speeds up the dissolution of the relationship. Thank you for the update. I'm so glad you stood firm. Ella and John's behavior says a lot about who they are as people. Obviously, your relationship didn't mean much to them. I'm sorry you had to deal with online harassments, as well as them showing up unannounced at your home. Have you considered getting a restraining order? Thank you. Not really. Tom did mention it, but for the past 2 days, they haven't bothered us at all. So hopefully this is the end of all of this oof. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my father the house my grandmother left me? Some important context. My father left me when I was 10. I came home from school one day and he was gone and I was alone. My grandmother eventually took me in. But that moment gave me issues that I'm still working through. My grandmother passed away and was buried a couple of weeks ago, and I saw my father for the first time in 14 years at his mother's funeral. After the will was read, we learned that my grandmother left me her property. My father was furious. Apparently, he feels he has more rights to her property than I do because she was his mother. He's been harassing me to hand over the property to him and promising that when he dies, I can have it. I don't want to give him the property because if my grandmother wanted him to have it, she would have put it in her will. My father has been going around telling the family that I stole his mother's property right from under him, and I'm trying to punish him for leaving me. My family have been reaching out to tell me that even if he abandoned me, that I shouldn't forget the importance of filial piety, and how being good to my father even if he isn't good to me is what makes a good daughter. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong, but the comments and the suggestions are beginning to wear me down. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. You are not the a-hole. You owe your father nothing for walking out on you. Don't even engage with him. Block his number if you have to. If he attempts to confront you in person, walk away. Put all your relatives on blast and tell them that the matter has been decided, that you're keeping the house, and that you will block anyone who attempts to continue discussing the topic. A fire can burn without oxygen, so starve this issue of all its fuel. All of this. Did you plot at 10 years old to have your father move away while you weren't there, so that many years later after your grandmother's passing you might get given her house? No, I'm pretty sure that was not your plan. Your father is an AITA, and so are the family defending him. I agree to put them on blast, that you never asked for the house. But equally, why would you give what's yours to a man who left a literal child alone? 100% not the a-hole. Block him and maybe also change the locks on the off chance he still has a key. Yes, change the locks. Protect yourself. Your grandmother left you the house. It's yours. Don't trust him to do what's right now. He's never done so before. Not the a-hole, 100%. Being good to my father even if he isn't good to me is what makes a good daughter. Why would you want to be a good daughter in these circumstances? It sounds like you hardly know him. Not the a-hole. Stay strong. And by the way, that is not what stealing is, unless you can steal from yourself. This argument also bugs me because what about being a good granddaughter? This is clearly what Opie's grandmother wanted. Doesn't that logic make the father a bad son for going against his mother's wishes? Not the a-hole, 100%. Not the a-hole. Even if he had suggested that your grandmother disinherit your father for abandoning you, you would not be the a-hole. Your grandmother left her house to you because she wanted you to have it. End of story. Your father must have had little, if any, contact with your grandmother in the past 14 years if she raised you, and you didn't see him again until the funeral. His choice to abandon his responsibility to you meant that she ended up taking over. There is zero chance of you inheriting the house when your father dies. If he doesn't sell it and squander the money, it'll be left to a love interest or be your buddy or something. Keep your house. The woman who parented you wanted you to have it. I'd be interested in knowing if in addition to Opie keeping the house, they could report the abandonment to CPS and file for years of child support that erode. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my son-in-law out after he requested that I give my daughter more money than her younger sister due to circumstances? I'm a single father of two, Claire 25 female and Jess 19 female. Claire's husband and I have a formal relationship, but frankly, neither me nor Jess like spending too much time with him. But we're very, very cordial. He came over and sat with me and Jess for coffee. We talked about weather, politics, and daily issues. Then he out of nowhere started talking about my assets. I felt a bit bothered discussing stuff like that, but I was happy to answer a few questions he had. I said I was planning on selling my 2 properties and use money for my upcoming surgery, and the rest will be split equally between my daughters beside the house as mentioned in my will. He talked about how unfair he thought it was that both sisters get equal inheritance, asking me to take under consideration the fact that both are at very different stages in life. For example, Claire has family to support and medical expenses, debts to cover and is a stay-at-home mom, while Jess is single, plans on being child-free, has a job already. Besides, Jess will probably waste money irresponsibly on greedy guys' dates instead of an investment. Jess got uncomfortable, and I responded that Claire's circumstances won't change anything in my will, and decision is taken. He said, Jesus, you seem to enjoy blaming Claire for making a decision to start a family at a young age, don't you? Then went on about my grandchildren and my obligation towards them and their future. I said yes, those are my grandkids, but am I the one responsible for providing them? He tried to politely explain that I should help him and Claire out, and asked me to reconsider giving my Claire more than half while Jess gets less. I politely but firmly stated Jess deserves as much as her older sister gets since she's young and she needs help with college debt still. I asked him to respect my decision wanting my will to be executed the way I wanted, and that I don't want him to make such unnecessary fuss about it later. He just smug smiled and sarcastically said, I guess you'll just have to die and we'll see then. I was shocked, like was this a joke? I got upset and stood up and pointed at the door and told him I was having none of these half-polite, half-mean conversations anymore. I'd asked him to please leave. Jess asked me to take it easy, but it was already too late and the argument escalated. He said he was hurt by me kicking him out for just making a suggestion, and that I was holding in all this hate for him, and finally found an excuse to insult him. He told Claire about how I kicked him out for just pointing out that I'm not doing enough for my family. I get they're struggling, but I couldn't ignore how dismissive he was towards Jess acting like she doesn't have a life. We're known to be cordial, so to hear I kicked him out was a shock to my family. Legally, I got nothing to worry about, but morally, I don't think I handled this conflict the way I was supposed to. It sounds to me like you handled as well as possible. You practically threatened a challenge to your will. Poor Jess. He sounds like he'll be a nightmare down the line. not stay home. Opie, you better make sure your will is ironclad, because he will either challenge your will or bully Jess into giving him the money. If you have to put Jess's money into a trust that only pays out a certain amount every month. Not stay home. Trust funds for both daughters might be even better. You were right. I did need to reconsider my will and have updated it accordingly. Half of my assets will go to Jess. The other half will go into a trust to be split equally among Claire's children, not to be accessed until they are 25 and living on their own with the exception of funds paid directly to an accredited college, university, or technical school. Further details include that if Jess should predecease me, her half of the inheritance will be donated to charity. Thank you for bringing my attention to this matter. Not today, home. My word. He's just waiting for you to die so he can get your money. That's horrible. The other half will go into a trust to be split equally among Claire's children, not to be accessed until my son-in-law is declared legally dead. If Claire and her husband are just waiting around for Opie to die to get access to his money, it might make sense to have their kids be in the position of waiting around for their dad to die. Not today, home. Why can't he support his wife? Sounds like a deadbeat loser. I was wondering the same thing. Why is Opie responsible for providing for his grandchildren? Shouldn't it be up to the parents to provide for the children they choose to have? I don't know if it's just an over-representation of the people who post on Reddit, but I have seen a lot of posts with over-entitled people who seem to think their family or friends have a responsibility to provide or care for their children.